Alright, what's going on everyone? It's Sean. Welcome back to my channel. Before we get into the video, I want to talk about something I've been working on super passionately for the past couple years. I'm actually wearing one of the items right now, and it's this Cove crew neck. So Cove is the name of the company, and what we do is donate 15% of the profits to organizations that we support. If you click the link in the description, that goes to our website, and click the organizations tab, you can read all about each organization. And then go ahead and go check out some of the products. We have this crew neck in this color, which is slate blue. We have a light blue, a yellow, and a green, as well as long sleeves and t-shirts with super cool designs on them. So if you want to support me and all of these organizations directly, please consider clicking that link in the description and picking up some merch. So let's get into the video now. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I earned a 93 on BEC, and I'll share some tips and tricks on how you guys can do it too. Okay, so I want to give some quick background about myself because I think it is relevant to the exam. So I was a double major in business administration and accounting when I was in college. I got a Bachelor of Science in both degrees, so I am very passionate about business. I love all things business, and I think that did help me a little bit in this exam, but I think as long as you guys pay attention to the small details and just overall concepts, you'll easily have as much success as I did on this exam. So I only used Becker to study for this. I can't speak to any of the quality traits or characteristics of any of the other review courses because I've never used them, and I thankfully haven't had to use them. I also did not purchase any of the books or flashcards for Becker. I only used the online material and read everything off of my computer. So pretty much all you need is Becker and a computer to get this score. So let's switch over to the laptop right now, and I'll walk you guys through the Becker software and show you what my methodology was for getting through this while working full-time. Okay, so as you guys can see on the screen, this is the Becker software. So let's go into the BEC course, and we'll go through, let's just go through the last one. So basically my process for getting through the material was, I guess let's go back up to M or B1. So my process for getting through the material, I started with the very first section, and I did this for every single CPA exam. So let's start with B1 because it's BEC. So you go B1, M1, you're going to, well, this looks a little different, but you basically you read through the lecture. I basically just read everything. I didn't watch any of the lecture videos because I felt they took way too much time. But if you did want to watch them, I would suggest speeding up the lecture's talking speed because it takes forever if you just listen to it at normal times. So I did it at least 1.5 to 2 times speed for every single lecture if I did feel that I needed to watch it. But a majority of the time I didn't watch it. So I read everything through. I took notes on the relevant topics on a Google Docs document. That way I could go through and use Control F to find any topics that I needed to review, particularly when I went through my final review process. It's a lot easier to go through a typed document than it is to sift through a 100-page notebook because you realistically will have no idea where you left everything and where exactly you took a specific note on one small item that you remember taking but you can't find. So I would highly suggest typing your notes even if you feel that handwriting helps you remember it more, just from a review standpoint. Now, go through the lecture, read every single lecture, and click through the videos, and then you'll take the skills practice. The skills practice, say they take 30 minutes. In reality, they only take between 2 to 5 minutes for most of them. Some take 10 to 15, but that's pretty rare. After you finish the skills practice, I would suggest taking all of the multiple choice questions for that particular chapter. And basically all you have to do is go through the multiple choice, really think about why you're choosing the answer that you are, and don't just guess every single time. If you can't, you think about it and you can't come up with an answer within 20 to 30 seconds, click whatever you think is the most incorrect answer. That way it'll be wrong and you can read why it's the correct answer and commit that to memory and really get an understanding of why it's the correct answer and not just a memorization of the letter or the answer choice. The big thing with the CPA exam is you need to understand, because you won't see the same questions from your review course as you will on the exam. They'll be similar, but because of that, you need to understand the question and the answer to the question, and the overall concepts, not just the specific answer, because you'll never see a released question. Or it is, I wouldn't say never. It's highly unlikely for you to see a released question from the AI CPA on the actual exam. So the takeaway from that, you need to understand the questions and the answers and the concepts, not just memorize everything. Now, so do the lecture, do the skills practice, do the multiple choice for every single chapter, and repeat the multiple choice until you can get 100% on it. Skip the simulations, and I'll show you why once we get to the review process. But repeat that for every single chapter until you get to the end where everything's done except for the simulations. Now we're at the review process. So you're going to use the simulations as a kickstart to your review, because simulations are very application based. So if you don't understand something, you definitely can't apply it, which it sounds like it'll be difficult, and you're 100% correct, because it will be difficult. So what I did was saved up all of the simulations for the very end, and I would go through and I did the simulation chapter by chapter, and it took me I'd say about 8 to 10 hours total. So it's about 1 day of studying if you're on a weekend, or maybe 3 or 4 days during the week. But it's well worth it to save it up for the end, because it's a great way to kickstart your final review. Once your simulations are done, I would suggest taking some of these unlimited practice tests. So you'll click New Test, and I believe BEC was 2 31 question multiple choice testlets. So I would suggest starting off with 31 questions from all 6 chapters. That'll give you a different mix depending on each practice test that you take will have a different composition. So you'll have like 5 questions from chapter 6 and 4 from chapter whatever. So the Becker software will randomize it for you, and you don't really have to worry about that. But I would take 2 to 3 practice tests of 31 questions each from all 6 chapters and get a baseline understanding of where you're starting at. Now, if you want to see the scores, you're going to go to Report, and then you can see my 5 most recent scores here. So I got a 75 at the bottom, and that was only for chapter 4, because that was one of the areas where I was struggling. And then I did 31 for all 6 chapters. I got a 71%. You can see it all right here. I don't need to go over it. But basically, one of my last ones, I got an 80%. I got a 93 and then an 80%. Now, I think these practice tests are one of the best ways to review and most efficient, because they tell you exactly where you screwed up in what chapter. And you can go through and see I can't go through it for copyright reasons, but you can go through and see exactly which questions you got wrong, what the right answer is, why it's the right answer, basically anything along those sorts. Now, once you go through some practice tests, I want you to take your first simulated exam. And simulated exam scores are like a hot topic, because most people bomb these to all hell, and so did I. So let's go through and look in the report. Okay, so on my first practice exam, I got a 59%. Now, you need a 75 to pass your CPA exam. So you're saying, oh, I got a 59%. I'm screwed, because passing, like barely passing the real thing, is a 75. Well, Becker grades their mock exams a lot differently than the actual CPA exam is graded. So no one really knows how the CPA exam is graded, but it's not a percentage weight. It even says that on the score report. It says scores are not based off of a percentage or number of questions correct. It says don't interpret it as this. It's just a number from 0 to 99, and you get something along there, and hopefully it's a 75 or higher. So in Becker's case, there's a spreadsheet that I'll link down below, and it's actually a comparison of Becker mock versus actual scores, and it's about a 15 to 20 point difference between your Becker mock exam score, and this is on average. So it's a difference between your Becker mock exam score and your actual score on the exam. So hypothetically, let's say it's a 15 point difference. I got a 59 on this. I would have gotten a 74 on the real exam. So this is my first CPA exam, like the mock exam. Now let's go into my second one. So I got a 56 on this one. So I actually did worse after reviewing, which kind of pissed me off, but it is what it is. So I looked at the score breakdown and I basically looked at the sections where I got a 75% or less, which was chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the simulations are kind of a crapshoot, so I wouldn't focus too much on that. I would know how to do most of them, but the simulations I got on the exam were a lot different than the ones I got in my Becker simulations. I think the ones on the exam were much easier. So keep that in mind. Simulations are graded very poorly for Becker, and I don't think they hold much weight relative to the real exam, and this can drag your score down pretty low. So basically, only thing that's relevant is look at the multiple choice questions. I'd say anything under you got 75% or under on, I would do a bunch of those self-generated practice tests and keep grilling those questions over and over until you can average around a 70 to 75% on those practice tests. And then you'll go back and take a mock exam again. So let's go back to let's look at my third simulated exam. Okay, so I got another 59%. So I went 59, 56, 59. And again, none of those scores technically would be passing based off of my mock score plus the 15-point curve between the Becker mock versus actual. So my highest score would have technically been a 74. But one thing that people forget is that you have the written portion of the exam, which I think is worth 15. It's like 15% is your 15% of your score on the CPA exam is made up of the written exam section. So I want to show you guys how I studied for that. This will be one of the last parts of the video. So let's just choose a random section. Let's go operations management, and then can't even find it. Oh, simulations. Okay, so here's an example of a written question. So you go through, you read what they're saying, and then basically what I did is I read what they said, and then I ran through how I would respond in my head. I didn't actually type any responses for any of these. I just put reviewed once I like to mark to myself that I knew that it was done. So I'll read this question, go through and run through the process in my mind of how I would format it with an introduction, and then 3 body paragraphs and a conclusion. And Becker actually does a pretty good job. If you look at the solutions, you can check your answer against theirs, and as long as you have something similar, it doesn't have to be word for word, you'll probably be fine on the real exam. But let's say I did get a 74 on like the Becker mock exam, but I got an extra 15% push from all of my written exam choices on the actual exam. I think it's definitely 15% of free points towards your exam grade, because all the exam grading software is looking for really is correct punctuation and grammar, buzzwords, and that your overall paragraphs and writing are on topic. So as long as you can do those things, I think you'll be fine in the written portion. So I know this is a lot of information, but if you have any questions, just drop them down below in the comments, and I answer every single question I get. If you look at my other videos, I'm pretty sure I've commented or liked any comments that have ever been posted. So I'm going to keep trying to do that. Obviously, if the video blows up, I can only do so much, but I'll help as much as I can. So hopefully this has helped. Before you get into your exam, make sure you take a deep breath. Make sure you have enough water or coffee, whatever your liquid of choice is, in your system. That way you're hydrated and your brain can function properly. Make sure you get a good night's rest and a good meal beforehand. Don't eat anything super heavy, or else you'll start to get sleepy. And then if you get frustrated in the exam because you don't know something, remember you can always move on. Don't waste 3 minutes on one multiple choice question that's worth relatively little compared to a simulation or a written question. You gotta remember, time management is key. And I finished this exam with like 5 minutes left, but that's because I left myself an hour and a half for 3 written questions, because I knew I wanted to get the easy points on those and write really good responses. So I think that helped me out a lot. I basically did about a minute per question for the multiple choice. I got through the simulations pretty quick. I would say, well, if I did 62 minutes for multiple choice, I took another maybe hour and 15 for the actual simulations, and then I had an hour and a half left for the written exam portion, and then I finished with, I don't know, 15 minutes left or so. I don't know if all those add up, but it's relatively ballpark range around there. So again, any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm sure I missed something, but you guys can do it. If you get a high score, good for you, but don't rub it in people's faces. I got a 93 on this one, I got a 90 on FAR, but I also got a 78 on reg and barely scraped by with that one. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum. A high score is cool, good for you, but at the end of the day, we're all gonna be CPAs, and no one doesn't say CPA with a 93 on this. So it's a good personal accomplishment, but remember that your coworkers are going through their own struggles in life and they have their own issues. So just be aware of that. Don't rub it in people's faces. And if there's like a 30-year-old staff who has a wife and kid, it's because, and they haven't gotten promoted because they don't have their CPA. It's most likely because they simply don't have the time to do it. Whereas I'm a 22-year-old, I got nothing going on other than running my own company and working. It's a lot easier for me to study full-time or part-time when I'm working. So keep that in mind. Be nice to people. Again, if you want to pick up some merch to support me and those great organizations that I have on the website, please consider clicking the link down below and picking something up. So this will be one of my last CPA exam videos, and I thank all you guys for watching this series, but I'll have tons of great content coming out for you guys in the future. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.